Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the rLounge. Just when you thought you had it all figured out, and Mr. Perfect checked all the right boxes, life throws you a jealous half-sister that wants the goods all to herself. Today in the rLounge, sometimes the only way to move forward is to confront the chaos head on. Sister stole my fiance and tried to ruin my life, so I exposed her infidelity to her new husband and she got divorced. When my fiance, Tyler, 25 male, proposed, I, 23 female, thought I'd finally found my peace. After years of struggling with my family dynamics and men who only took and never gave, I met this incredible guy who seemed perfect. Tyler was the opposite of the mess I grew up with. He was grounded, reliable, and the kind of person who made me feel safe. And maybe that was my first mistake, thinking that the safety would last. Tyler wasn't just my partner. He was the only person I knew who understood me. He knew about my complicated family situation, about my dad's infidelity that led to Layla, my half-sister's birth, and how my mom decided she had no choice but to leave, taking half of what he'd built. She walked away strong, even if it meant breaking up our family and taking on a lot by herself. I respected her for it, so yes, maybe I saw something in Tyler that I'd always longed for, a chance to build a family without cracks in its foundation. When we got engaged, Tyler poured himself into the relationship even more. He'd surprise me with little gifts, plan our weekends together, and be there for every wedding decision, no matter how small. My parents thought he was perfect for me. Layla, the perfect younger sister I got saddled with after the divorce, was the bane of my existence. I met her when I was 9, and from the start, I could feel her shadow creeping over every part of my life. I don't know why she thought I was a competitor or why she hated me. Layla, the golden child of my dad's affair, just seemed to live for taking what wasn't hers. My crushes, my friends, my things, and even the tiny bits of family attention I'd get. She never stopped. As you can see, it wasn't just petty stuff. I would eventually learn that my dad only married my mom because she was pregnant with me. He wasn't ready to settle, or so my aunt said. Growing up, Layla could charm anyone and everyone. It wasn't hard for her. She was very cute and outgoing. Meanwhile, I was the quiet one, the mistake my dad felt obligated to keep around. I wasn't funny, loud, or easygoing like her. She made it her life's work to win over my dad. She tried it with my mom one time, and it really didn't go down as well. But apart from my mom, she had others wrapped around her finger so tight that even if I tried to raise the smallest complaint, I'd get a stern, "Stop being jealous" look from everyone in the room. The first time Layla really hurt me was in high school. I didn't date much back then, but I had a crush. This dude was kind of funny in a dorky way, and I mentioned him to Layla once, thinking she'd keep it to herself. And I never thought, in my wildest dreams, she'd go for someone like him. But I was wrong. She promised she'd put in a good word. I was naive. The next thing I knew, she asked him to go to a school dance. Just to help me out, she said. They ended up dating, of course, and she couldn't just date him and be done. She made sure to flaunt it right in my face the entire time. At home, she told my parents they were friends. I still remember her satisfaction when she stole him out from under me. By my senior year, I'd learned better than to trust her, and maybe it's sad, but I just went quiet. I gave up trying to keep everything from her because I knew she'd find a way to ruin it. In my dad's house, I always was the one who had to explain myself while Layla got by on her charm. When I finally went off to university, I thought I'd left her in shadow behind. I started fresh, so many miles and hours away from my family's chaos. I stayed with my mom and her new family. She was happy to have me around, and it was nice to be there, but it wasn't that simple. I split my time between my parents, going back to my dad's for holidays because half my allowance came from him, and I knew I had to keep up appearances. Out of sight, out of mind, that was what I thought was the rule. So I kept myself on his radar, but for the first time, I felt like my own person, free to make my own choices and have friends. I wasn't scared that Layla would influence me one way or the other, and that's when I met Tyler. He didn't fall for people's facades. He was honest and genuine, saw through the nonsense, and it didn't take long before I felt like I'd finally found someone I could trust. I knew better than to let Layla anywhere near him. From the start, her witch radar was on whenever I mentioned him, and I could see the wheels turning. "Why don't you bring him around?" she'd say, like she was doing me a favor. But I wasn't stupid. I kept them as far apart as I could, and for a while it worked. We had 2 incredible years together, and then, finally, he proposed. It felt surreal, like I'd built a little corner of happiness that Layla couldn't reach. But she was thrilled for us, or so she claimed. She insisted on helping with wedding plans and even offered to show Tyler around when I was busy with work. I ignored it at first. After all, Tyler wasn't some clueless high school boy, but that nagging feeling in my stomach grew every time I saw her text him or accidentally bump into us at the house. Then came the text message. I was working late when I got a notification from Layla. At the bar with Tyler and a few friends, celebrating your engagement. She'd included a picture of Tyler laughing with a drink in his hand. I should have been invited, but I brushed it off. I was too tired to think much of it, or maybe I just didn't want to see the signs. But one day, everything came crashing down. Tyler had left his phone on the kitchen counter. I was about to contact his office as that was where he told me he was headed, but a message popped up. Layla. Are you coming over after? My heart plummeted. I stared at the screen, the words blurring, each one sharper than a knife. I trusted him. I trusted her. But there it was in black and white. I didn't even notice that I was shaking until I picked up the phone to check his messages, and what I found was like a punch to the gut. Their messages stretched back for months. They'd shared innocent enough with suggestions to meet up for drinks and jokes back and forth. But as I read, my skin crawled. Layla had flirted with him, twisting our family group chats to paint me as paranoid or mean. Tyler hadn't just gone along with it. He'd encouraged her, complimented her, and met her for catch-ups. She'd sent him pictures just for fun, and he'd complimented her in ways that were inappropriate at best. She'd suggested meeting up, and he'd responded with, "Wouldn't miss it." The final straw was his message to her. "I'll talk to her soon, I promise." I'd been played. All the red flags. I'd ignored all the times I told myself I was imagining things. It had been real, every single bit of it. Layla had been married for just a little over a year, and she was doing this? She managed to get a husband, and she was still pulling this garbage. I took a video of all the messages with my phone, breathing slowly to keep from screaming. You guys should imagine how he ran back into the house, thankfully several minutes after I had put his phone back on the counter, like a madman looking for his phone. If I weren't so distressed, I would have been rolling on the floor laughing. That's right, I pretended nothing had changed. I made dinner, laughed at his jokes, and nodded as he told me about his long day at work. Every second felt like a betrayal, but I forced myself to act normal. I needed to play my part perfectly, at least until I got more information. Over the next few days, I hired a private investigator. This was a turning point. Dramatic, yes, but remember, this was Layla we were dealing with. I needed evidence. I needed it to be irrefutable. I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction, knowing that they had no idea I was onto them. Within 2 weeks, I had the evidence. Photos, receipts, and even times they had met up at her apartment. The worst part? Tyler had gone to her place the day after our engagement party, leaving me at home alone while he celebrated with my half-sister. I felt shattered, like I'd been grounded down to pieces. I couldn't even bring myself to go to my dad for support. He was physically closer to me than my mom. Not that I'd even get the support I craved. Instead, I had to call and confide in the step-siblings from my mom's side. We'd always been close, but the second they found out, they were livid. One of them even suggested we corner her and beat her up. That one has always been a wild card. But I had heard a story of a woman assaulting her husband's affair partner and accidentally killing her in the process. I didn't want my face to end up in a mugshot, so I killed the idea fast. They couldn't believe Layla, someone I grew up with, would betray me. They helped push me to set up my revenge. I'd always thought of myself as a forgiving person, a quiet one who'd avoid conflict if I could. But in that moment, all the rage and pain festered into something darker. I was going to expose them both in the most public way possible, where everyone they'd fooled would be there to watch. It wasn't just about exposing their betrayal. It was about dismantling the twisted loyalty they'd been serving me for years and making sure everyone saw them for who they really were. First, I reached out to Layla, playing my part like a pro. I told her I wanted her help planning a surprise trip for Tyler. Since she was so good at planning, sarcasm, I suggested we meet at lunch to go over ideas. She took the bait, hook, line, and sinker, thrilled to be closer to Tyler. Why else would she be that excited? But oh boy, did I have a surprise for her. During lunch, I laid it on thick. I played the doting fiance, bubbling over the fake excitement about Tyler, the wedding, and how happy I was. I watched Layla's face as I gushed, and I could tell she was forcing her smiles. Her fake enthusiasm as painful to watch as it was to give. She couldn't even suppress her jealousy. Nah, for real, this girl was evil. I then dropped the bait. I told her I'd planned something special for an upcoming family gathering, one that would have everyone there. My dad, his wife, my mom, all our siblings, Tyler's parents, and Layla's husband, Tom. I don't know too much about that relationship, but I don't particularly care. Layla's face lit up with a gleam in her eye when she realized how much of an event it was going to be, but she had no idea she was about to be in the eye of the storm. Meanwhile, I'd been preparing my arsenal, a flash drive with a presentation packed with photos, screenshots, and receipts from the investigator. I'd collected everything I needed to completely destroy Layla's good girl image in front of everyone. The plan was simple: expose them both in front of our entire family and her husband on the big screen, which was supposed to show pictures of Tyler and me. I wanted them both to be squirming as they saw their dirty laundry aired for everyone to see. The day of the family gathering, I arrived, and I dressed the part. I got so many compliments that day, I witnessed firsthand why being loud sometimes gets you places. Tyler was there, playing the perfect fiance, and Layla fitted around. The fake little sister, her face plastered with a forced grin that only stoked my resolve. Once everyone was gathered, I excused myself quietly, retrieved the flash drive, and gave it to my brother, the designated media guy. Walking back into the room, I felt every eye on me, but I was locked in, my gaze set squarely on Layla and Tyler. I waited until the room was completely silent, letting the tension rise. Everyone was expecting cute pictures of Tyler and me. I have something important to share with everyone. I began and then headed up to play the video. Layla's face went white the second the screen lit up. Tyler looked up, his smile gone. I turned to Tyler and Layla, my voice calm and controlled. I've known for a while now that the two of you have been seeing each other behind my back. I looked straight at Tyler, holding his gaze. The texts, the dates, the late-night meetups at her apartment. All of it. The room went dead silent. My dad's wife gasped, clutching her chest as she pieced it together. My dad's face was a shade of red I'd never seen, although I couldn't tell if it was directed at them or me. Tyler tried to say something, stumbling over his words, but I silenced him with a look, opened the folder, and got right down to business. One by one, I flipped through the slides. Texts spelling out their sleazy exchanges, photos of them together, receipts from all the secret dinners they thought they'd gotten away with. It was like passing out party favors at their funeral. The room exploded. My dad's wife, Layla's mother, looked like she wanted to faint or maybe have a stroke as she processed everything she was seeing. Tyler's parents, who'd always treated me like family, looked like their hearts had been ripped out. My dad tried to calm everyone down, but I wasn't finished. I turned to him, voice steady and cold. "This," I said, gesturing to the mess on the screen, "is what happens when you let someone like Layla run wild, rewarding her for every single thing she gets away with." I turned to his wife. "You've enabled her for years, writing off my complaints as jealousy, while Layla did whatever she wanted." Tyler was scrambling, spewing out apologies that no one was listening to. His parents looked at him with absolute disgust. Layla, meanwhile, sat pale and wide-eyed, tears starting to spill. Every attempt she made to defend herself was ignored. Her sobs only grew louder as she realized not the full extent of her actions, but the full extent of what it meant to be on the bad side of people. Finally, I delivered my last line, looking directly at Tyler. "I loved you. I thought you were the one, and you threw it all away for someone who only wants what isn't hers." Then I turned to Layla. "I hope it was worth it because now everyone has seen you exactly for who you are, especially your husband." I gathered my things and tried to leave the room in pure chaos. Tyler tried to follow, but his parents held him back, fuming at his betrayal. Layla started towards me. She wanted to fight me. I could see it in her eyes. But before she could, her husband was already on her. This is how I made a smooth escape. I could hear her husband shouting at her, demanding explanations, and tearing into her in front of everyone. I walked out with my dignity intact, knowing I'd unraveled their lives. The fallout? Well, it was delicious. Tyler's family practically, not really, disowned him for the time being, enraged that he'd betrayed them as much as me. His mom called me afterward, begging me to take him back and explaining how Tyler has nowhere to go. She even offered me details of their family drama as if that would change my mind. I ignored her. Layla? Her life turned into the disaster she'd earned. Her husband filed for divorce. Her mother obviously stood by her even though she had stopped supporting her BS. And at least our mutual friend circle that thought she was cooler knew the truth now and turned their backs on her. She lost everyone's respect, and she was left facing the consequences, truly left alone for the first time in her life. My mom and her family didn't let my dad off the hook either. They had seen the pictures of the family group chat I had to the presentation and blamed him for turning a blind eye and enabling Layla's worst behavior. His once ideal family was gone, replaced by backlash and the loss of the loyalty he'd taken for granted. The funny thing? He tried to apologize by offering me a new car, an upgraded version of the one he'd given Layla years ago, the one I'd wanted, but she convinced him to give her instead. I rejected it, but it's still in my name. Maybe I'll change my mind later. But for now, he can stew in his regrets, trying and failing to reach out to the only sane child he has left. I blocked him. Let him learn the hard way. As for his wife, I don't care what is happening to her. I did not ask anyone about her. In fact, I made sure I heard no news of her. I wasn't interested. Me? I moved on. I'm not totally healed because I have been going through a lot since I was 9 years old, but I'm definitely stronger, and I am surrounded by people who actually respect and love me. I moved permanently to my mom's place. I looked back on it all with satisfaction, knowing that, in the end, they got exactly what they deserved. It's one thing to be hurt by someone you love, but to have both a close friend and a family member, someone you saw as a trusted partner in life, double-cross you in this way? That's a different level of hurt. Layla and Tyler had no idea what hit them. I'm sure it was tough, but it sounds like you were able to reclaim your voice in a really powerful way. Hopefully, it was a turning point for your family too, especially for those who never really understood what Layla was doing behind the scenes. What do you make of this? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today in the rLounge. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time, and please put your chair back where you found it.